Welcome back to HGG, where Derek has managed to make the trip all the way back here to Poland. How you doing, Derek?
I'm good. It appears that the Dan is always greener on the other side after having a lovely weekend with Frodan. I thought, you know what, it's enough time with eloquence, fame and charmingness. Let's come back to my good friend, Daniel Falcone.
Where is he going with this?
I'm joking. Of course, it's nice to be back in the HGG studios.
Just got a single tear. Yeah, next up we have Belgium versus Spain. We've made a big thing about this matchup all throughout the week. On Monday, I had a chat with AKA Wonder in the community show, and he was saying all about his motivation in the Hearthstone Global Games, how it's gone a little bit downhill for the last few weeks. The team has been struggling as they went from 3-0 to 3-2, and now they have to win this one.
Yeah, I've been liking a lot of the strategy that Spain's been talking about in their previous weeks, analysing the styles and strategies of their opponents in previous weeks and trying to counteract that as best as they can. But coming down now up against Belgium as a final team, this is not an easy victory that they have to get to advance through to the top 16.
No, not at all. Let's take a look at who is playing once more for Team Belgium and Team Spain. Maverick, Chinois, Shozi, and Oleg versus Riku97, aka Wonder, Delsum, and Jacob. Wow, that's a lineup on both sides.
Yeah, very, very impressive. We liked a lot of what we've seen on both sides. I believe Firebat, after doing his analysis video, predicted Akawanda to win, or at least to qualify through from playoffs this weekend, because he loved, again, his strategy, which is one of Akawanda's biggest accolades, I think, despite the fact that he, in the end, did not get there. Whereas on Belgium, on the other side, we've seen Chinois on social media talking a little bit of trash about the Spanish team, giving it a little bit of that. Yeah, I think he was, what did he do? He was like posting a play fight between him and his sister, and he put Spain's flag over his sister's face and then Belgium's over his face because his sister is very small, a baby, one might say.
Bit mean, both for Spain and for his sister.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the picks and bans for this vital match. These teams have to win for even a chance at qualifying.
In terms of bans right at the start here, makes a good amount of sense if you have a control-ish lineup, which we can see Belgium are definitely leaning towards. You want to get rid of that Quest Rogue right at the start because it will just demolish any one of your decks, no matter which one it faces up against. And then for Spain, they're seeing, oh, that's a Druid. Let's ban that Druid. It's, well, it's just Druid. It does Druid things against any deck. It's always kind of the default strategy of the global games to get rid of that.
Yeah, it has been. This strategy has been changing a little bit over time, though. Quest Rogues being banned, Odd Warriors being banned first. There's been some little trends that have sort of been rotating over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, banning Druid always seems like a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, it's just because it's decent against everything, right? It has no truly terrible matchups in Hearthstone, unlike the Quest Rogue, which was banned away. If we had seen a more aggressive strategy from Belgium, maybe they would have left that up. But they've gone with decks, I believe, like Q-Block instead of the Zoo, Quest Rogue instead of Odd Rogue. So it makes a good amount of sense. They've got control, ban the anti-control.
But how have these decks fallen into place? Let's take a look. First up, we're going to have Chinois on the Quest Odd Warrior versus Riku97 on the Zoo. Odd Quest Warrior, huh?
Yeah, this is a deck that I've seen popping up over the last week or so because Zalay in particular is a player I've been seeing piloting this deck to a pretty reasonable amount of success. His thinking, I believe, being in the aggro matchups, it does the same thing as Odd Warrior. You just win because you tank up too much, you have too much removal, they never get there.
Makes sense.
And against the control decks, the Mirror in particular, having that quest makes so much difference because you actually have a win condition now other than just fatiguing them and running them out of resources, which is valid in some matchups, but not all. I've got to be honest, I'm not entirely convinced by it yet because I believe a straight-up regular quest version or maybe just traditional Odd Warrior might be the way to go. But I'm very, very glad that we get to see it at the global games because I've only seen it on ladder, on streams, I believe, rather than in a competitive tournament setting.
I've seen it on ladder a few times myself. What sort of shape does this deck take then, Derek? I haven't had a chance to have a look at it yet.
I think it just cuts some of the weird tech cards that you see in the later stages of the game and the early game from the traditional Odd Warrior, like it's losing Azalina, it's losing Dr. Boom as well because it doesn't want to switch Death Knights, and then lose it again later on because you're getting the Ragnaros hero power.
It can't be running Grommash either because that's an even card.
Well, yeah. So it's just going for all the taunt cards. It substitutes in Stonehill, Tar Creepers, Phantom Militia, as well as double Direhorn, as I said, for cards like Big Game Hunter that was sometimes being seen, Azalina, Dr. Boom, the slightly more tech tertiary cards.
Well, here we go. How is it going to stand against Zoo? In theory, it should have the anti-aggro tools to keep Zoo at bay. However, Zoo can get pretty wide and pretty tall very, very quickly.
Yeah, you've got to be careful up against the Zoo Warlock, as you said, because if you do let them just go for, you know, taking it too slowly, if you let them plod out their resources, tap every turn, the outvaluing factor is a very, very big deal with Zoo. They can just take it into the super late game, especially if they find Keleseth in the first half of their deck, say. That might lead Belgium to actually keeping the quest, because later on, maybe they need that little bit of extra oomph to get over the finish line. In a traditional quest warrior, I think that's definitely something you consider a bit more. But even here, it's very much worth considering holding on to that quest.
Chinoise disagrees with you, though, throws it away. And it's worth pointing out, Chinoise is one of the star players, I think, of Belgium. He's a member of the esteemed practice group, the Dusky Boys, along with players like Orange and Hunter Race. So he's got some good guys to test with, though I don't believe they practice together for HGG.
Yes, I would be a little bit surprised that. It might be like an after effect, a side effect of them practicing for, say, playoffs or something like that. But I expect to see even more from Chinoise in the upcoming months, because he's just, I believe, finished his final exam at university.
Ooh,
just the other day he posted on Twitter, and we know, I think, as a UK story, after Ball Control finished university, he went from being a decent player who played a little bit, won the Prem, to just exploding. He was then doing amazingly well, getting like 3rd in Europe, I believe he is at points at the moment.
Wow.
If not right towards the top. And Chinoise, we know him to be a very strong player, so now he's got all that useless stuff out of the way, like getting an education and securing your financial future. He can play some Hearthstone.
Disclaimer, Derek is being very, very sarcastic right now. He was doing air quotes when saying that. Any parents that may be watching, that is not the impression we want to give. Okay, back to the game.
Especially my parents, if you're watching, Dad, that was definitely a joke. Can't drop out of uni twice, Dad. You're safe.
Okay, Riku does have the potential to do one of these explosive Zoo things. He's got the Voodoo Doctor, he's got the Happy Ghoul, but that Tar Creeper is making a mess of this board.
It's very weird, and so maybe you do the classic move against Tar Creeper of just ignore it. You just don't attack in, because it does a lot less on your opponent's turn than it does on your turn. But we could see an all-in, as you said, Voodoo Doctor, Soulfire to kill off Happy Ghoul, get a giant dominating board. But I think Riku here probably does want to solidify his board a little bit more against a potential, for a Fungalmancer on turn 5. So attacking in here is something I think he should be very hesitant about doing, because from his opponent, what's the punish that they can go for? Going into turn 3 with no armor, we couldn't see a Reckless Flurry to clear this off. There's no Blood Razor that can come down to clear up these minions. I think I like holding back here and just taking it slower. As I said, that's the liberty you have as the Zoo here, because they threw away the quest. You don't have to play quickly.
The only real difference I can see, sort of health breakpoint wise, make the trade, don't make the trade, is that now Belgium could put the Tar Creeper into the Happy Ghoul and tank up Shield Slam it. Whereas obviously before, 5 health is too much. Chinoise can't gain that much armor this turn.
I think
but
if
that's
they
not
do
good
that,
though, is it?
Yeah, you're pretty happy if they sacrifice Shield Slam and a full 3-drop just to kill off your 3-drop, which cost no mana.
I completely agree. Chinoise is just going to trade away the Voodoo Doctor and I guess just put up another Tar Creeper potentially. Just another annoying minion in Spain's way.
Does get value traded pretty hard if you go for the Tar Creeper, so I don't mind going for the Stonehill here, more as just a roadblock, just to stall your opponent out a little bit longer until you can lead up into that brawl. Because obviously if you go Stonehill instead of Tar Creeper, you get something out of it in the battle cries.
True.
I think this makes sense.
Gem-studded Golem, doesn't really matter about the armor, but it's just a big old minion to put in Zoo's way. Forcing the Zoo decks to go wide, preparing for a brawl to deal with things. I'm curious, does this deck run Super Collider?
I think it does run 2 Super Colliders right at the top. Like, it goes, in terms of there's a lot of 5-mana cards. It's got Brawl, Diehorn Hatchling, Dynamatic, Giggling, Super Collider, Ziliax, and then nothing above that up until Baku the Moon Eater.
Wow, okay.
So it is much like the other Quest Warrior decks, where the curve is incredibly low. basically doesn't run anything above 5 mana because Baku doesn't really count. You have to play that.
I was just wondering, because along with Brawl, Reckless Flurry, Shield Slam, Super Collider is just one of the best counters to
Oh,
Zoo.
yeah.
One weapon that deals with up to 6 of the opponent's minions. It's just phenomenal.
I mean, that is basically, I think, what people realized with Odd Warrior now is, yeah, yes, it gets you a bunch of health, but the main benefit is it allows you to play Super Collider. You can play 5 mana just to kill, in the best case scenario, 6 minions. And if you don't care about your health total, that is absurd.
Belgium going to be caring about their health total a little bit now. At least it's going to be on the back of their minds. They can't Brawl yet. So it's going to have to be a Tar Creeper this turn, but they're not getting any armor. Is gaining armor better than playing Tar Creeper?
If they go Tar Creeper this turn, they could then go Hero Power Shield Slam, or it means Ziliax or Direhorn Hatchling can take out the Happy Ghoul. And I think they're realizing now with these aggressive plays, for the moment, Riku is pretty all in on preserving this Happy Ghoul, because he obviously decided to go Soulfire on a 1/4 Stonehill defender just to protect that one crucial health on the Happy Ghoul.
Dreadlord is a fantastic follow-up, though. Spain can trade in both 2/2s, drop that, and it means tank up Reckless Flurry. Doesn't do anything to the board, it just reduces both minions to 1 health. Spain's actually sort of okay for now. They just need to keep this pressure up for a long time, which is going to be tricky.
Yeah, I like your reasoning, because I agree it's probably the best thing they can do on this turn. The downsides, however, are they're not tapping, which is really bad on any turn here on in, unless they're playing Solarium on a turn.
Oh, wow.
And they miss the damage through to face. So here they're thinking the 5 damage to face is worth more than that, and just putting them on having exactly Reckless Flurry.
Even then, Reckless Flurry doesn't deal with the Despicable Dreadlord,
Yeah.
so this is kind of a nice little hedge in between. It doesn't allow them to tap, but still did some work. As the quest, not the best draw for Belgium, though they have Ziliax, they have Brawl, they have some good options available to them.
It's basically a dead draw, though, for the moment. They're clearly thinking on, like you pointed out at the start, just winning through outvaluing their opponent. They don't think they need the quest. This play from Riku was obviously weaker to Brawl, but they get probably the best outcome out of it for Spain. And the more I look at it, the more I think I do actually prefer your line of play of missing out on the 5 damage. Because I think in terms of Spain's gameplay, my difference in terms of how I would have played it isn't that I think they've made any technical misplays. It's more just been I disagree with their overall way of playing the matchup. I think they can afford to be a little bit greedier, not go for so many immediate value plays, immediate tempo plays, and just keep tapping. Make sure they have the ability to constantly pressure their opponent out of the game.
Chenoise doesn't have any answers really, though, for wide boards now. He needs to draw something like, yeah, a Super Collider, another Brawler, Reckless Flurry. And in the meantime, Spain are just going to start to batter him.
Thinking about the positioning here for Super Collider, I think you play it on the far left, right? Because then if they attack into the Flame Imp, it doesn't kill off the Dreadlord. If they attack into the Dreadlord, it doesn't die by attacking into the Flame Imp. Whereas here, if they attack into the Flame Imp, it does kill off both the Flame Imp and the Light Warden. But I guess that keeps the Dreadlord alive.
And it's Dreadlord that's been doing a lot of the work this game so far. Dynamatic, one of the other incredible Odd Warrior cards that deals with decks like Zoo very efficiently. However, there's too much health on the board for now. So what are we looking at here? Tank up Shield Slam still can't hurt that Dreadlord. Yep, all right, just put up a big taunt in the way. And that's really tricky to get over.
This is what Zoo does suffer with now. They don't have answers to big taunts anymore because they're not playing Silence, they're not playing Void Ripper in these decks anymore because there's not really room in the deck with all these high roll cards they have to go for with Happy Ghoul and Keleseth and stuff like that. So it is a weird turn for Riku. He can go all out if he wants to on this turn. It's kind of in keeping with what his game plan has been so far this game, which is to play very quickly, which, you know, I said at the start I didn't agree with. Maybe it's just right, though. Maybe by forcing their opponent to have removal, they think going aggressive right at the start of the game does give them more ability to close out the game quicker rather than taking it into the late game.
Fungalmancer is a phenomenal draw for right now. It does allow Riku to actually trade away this Gem-Studded Golem and still go face too. He's just got to work out the positioning and doesn't have long to do that.
3, 4, 5, 6. So he could trade in everything other than the Dreadlord if he wanted to and play around another Reckless Flurry. I think that's probably a little bit too... being a little bit too afraid of that card, because if Reckless Flurry does come down, fine, they're still at a low health total, they probably haven't developed anything on this turn, and you've still got follow-up, most importantly.
Yeah, the more damage you've taken, the scarier Reckless Flurry gets, actually, because it's a whole turn that you don't keep the armor that you gain.
Yeah.
And on 11 health, Chinoise is now entering the danger zone. Giggling Inventor is fine here, as we can see. I'm not sure how many tech cards Spain are running that get past Giggling Inventor. No, there aren't any Blood Elves. So that should just be a safe play most of the time.
Yeah. They still do have a Dreadlord in play, though, so they could just like trade away half of the stuff and let the Dreadlord destroy the rest.
There's no damage to the face that way, though.
That is very important.
If Dreadlord's having to do any work at all, it's at the end of the turn. So Giggling Tank Up looks reasonable here, as it should tank up all of the damage.
Yeah, they could try and be really lucky with the Dynamatic, but I think the plan is, after going for Giggling Inventor, you hope that these minions are squishied up enough to the point where you can then finish them off with Dynamatic. However, we can see Fungal Enchanter and maybe a Voodoo Doctor as well just put a pretty swift finish to that.
Yeah, and Spain are going to have clocked by now the fact that Belgium don't have another board clear.
Yes, they would have gone for it then.
They don't have a Reckless Flurry, they don't have a second Brawl. So Riku is just going to feel safe enough to go as wide as possible and try and end the game at some point over the next couple turns.
I wonder.
Riku with no way to actually get any damage through to face on this turn, unfortunately for him, because, I mean, if he could, he'd probably just win the game with the Light Warden smacking through for like 9, 10, 12 damage on this turn.
Yep.
Almost out of time.
Now Riku has to decide quite how late he wants to go. Keleseth plus Saronite Chain Gang is sort of the widest, most powerful board. Obviously, Fungal Enchanter is good because it heals everything up. Yeah. The Dreadlord's going to deal with the Giggling Inventor itself. Chinoise needs a Brawl here, or a Reckless Flurry, which I feel like we've been saying all game.
Pretty much. And I think this does answer perfectly a Dynamatic, which was kind of the best thing that Chinoise could go for there if it was a board full of 1 health minions.
Yep.
However, now everything is at 2 and 3 health. The Dynamatic doesn't really become a viable option. So what does Belgium have access to? They could go Mind Control Tech Ziliax, I guess, is their best chance. I think that keeps them alive.
It depends what it steals, doesn't it? Or maybe it does.
Because they can always kill off the 11 too.
Yeah.
And then the worst case is 2 damage, and then they'd still be healing up for 6, which brings them up to 21. So I think they do survive pretty much every time with this play. And who knows, some of the time maybe they just steal the 11 too. Oh, okay, Shield Slam instead.
Okay, so that way they guarantee that the best 2 minions are removed.
Yeah, this is a little bit more... it's less risky. It's going to have a less good outcome some of the time, but more, you know, reasonable, more safe.
22 health available to Belgium now, and in theory, the Ziliax heals for another 3. As we can now see, it probably won't be, as Spain can just empty the hand, play Soulfire, and then tap this turn.
Sounds good to me.
So Chinoise is going to be taking 11, going back down to 11.
He's got a lot of good draws in his deck, though. He just needs 1 Reckless Flurry, 1 Brawl, another Mind Control Tech, perhaps.
Another Giggling Inventor.
Another Giggling. Yep, that's a good draw. Super Collider might be a little bit too late at this point.
I think so.
But it's something.
So Chinoise is not looking too happy about this, with Fire Plume's heart in hand. Leroy Jenkins picked up. He needs something. Although Spain's board is full, so Leroy can't come down anyway.
Well, I mean, boo-hoo. If the board
damage is available, isn't
it? I think they're pretty happy. Double MCT is now available for Chinoise. If he steals both chain gangs...
Oh, that would be incredible.
Attack. He wouldn't be dead on board then. I think he'd be alive even with a Leroy if he steals both the chain gangs. But I mean, he's not going to steal both the chain gangs, is he?
You say that.
He's not going to steal both the chain gangs.
There's one. There's one.
No.
You're about to eat your words,
No,
Mr.
no,
Derek
no,
Brown.
no. Does he even go for the second one?
He might go with the taunt instead.
Yeah, the Diehorn Hatchling is... Nah, he's going for it.
Oh,
Very close.
all right.
Good effort, Chinoy's at making me look a fool.
And this is just going to be lethal now, as we can see. The 3-3 eats up the Sound Knight Chain Gang, and then there's 10 damage on the board.
Yeah.
Leroy has 7 in hand. That is more than the 15 health
Wow.
available for Chinoy's. And who would have thought Zoo is going to start this series by taking down Odd Quest Warrior?
A very impressive effort from Spain. Chinoy's there, clearly unhappy with how that's going. And I think from Spain, I said at the start I didn't love their way of playing it because it was very aggressive with it. I think maybe more aggressive than they needed to be. And they did get rewarded for it, but that is because they got rewarded for it in the game where there was only one board sweep. If it had been a little bit different and a Reckless Flurry had been found, a MCT a little bit earlier, a Super Collider, maybe 2 Dynamatics as well. Could have gone a little bit different and they might have had more refill if they played it a bit more conservatively. But who am I to argue with results?
In a matchup that unfavored, I guess you just have to go for that. You have to say, look, we're just going to assume there's no Reckless Flurry in hand, make the biggest board we can, and hit our opponent as hard and as fast as possible. So Spain take game 1. Next up is going to be Belgium on the Cube Warlock versus Jacob on the, wait for it, Topsy-Turvy Priest. Again, we did see Neyria win a game with this deck in the last series. Do you think that's going to be the case here, Derek?
This is going to be a really weird one because Maverick here on the Q block, I think has multiple pretty valid routes to victory, the primary of which is obviously you hit Skull, you Doomguard them to death as quick as you can. That's plan A, which is a pretty good plan we've seen in Q block over the months that it's been available. Plan B is, in a perfect Hearthstone world, should never work, I believe.
Okay.
But is you load up the board with Voidlords, maybe resummon them with Gul'dan, and then Jacob just doesn't have the brain power to get through it. Because that is not a slight on Jacob at all. It is so difficult to get through that many Voidlords. I'm not even sure if it's actually possible, because I've seen on the the tool that someone made where you can practice going to topsy-turvy, the simulator. I think I saw Killin All Day get up to like 20 digits worth of damage just through a couple of Annoyatrons as well. It was absolutely insane. I've never seen people practice it through Voidlords. I guess it's still possible. I think you should be able to do unlimited damage if you are like a perfect computer brain person.
The issue is, playing Hearthstone is different from playing the simulator.
Yes.
Because on the simulator, there's no latency.
Yeah.
There's no pauses. You know, sometimes when you play
animation.
Hearthstone, you're playing against someone in the other side of the world, and you make a move, and then there's just like 2 seconds when none of your cards are green, and then cards go green again, and you can play them. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in the simulator. So it is slower, and it's not even the player's fault. It is slower when you actually play the game, and doing it through 2 or 3 Voidlords would be a really big test.
We have seen some impressive Topsy-Turvy Priest action. However, we saw Race fairly easily getting through 2 Annoyatrons, which to the accomplished Topsy-Turvy Priest player may not sound that impressive, but to the layman, that is no small feat, as for your first few games of Topsy-Turvy Priest, I guarantee you will not win with that deck. You have to know the combo inside and out, and when you are up against Voidlords, that combo gets significantly more complicado.
RDU, Race, and Neyria are currently the names of the Topsy-Turvy champions here in the Hearthstone Global Games. Will Jacob's name be joining them after this game? I don't know. Cube Warlock is going to be a hard matchup for him because, again, the Skull Giant Doomguard to Death plan, it's very real.
I mean, this is a pretty good hand for Belgium. I was saying they could go for the Skull into Doomguards, which is the ideal. But Mountain Giants on turn 4, 5, and dare I say 6 as well for the old 1-2 and then grow a third arm 3 punch. This looks like a good way to do it.
Good hand for Jacob as well, though. He's found himself
Very
with 2 death
respectable.
rattles that draw him a card, and Twilight's cool. He's going to be getting through his deck very quickly.
These are actually insane hands.
No, Insane was playing in the last series. He plays for Team Ukraine, Derek.
Oh, hush you. Yeah, just exactly what you're looking for in both decks, really. The Twilight's cool. I suppose you'd rather have a Dead Ringer thrown in there for Spain instead of maybe the Blood Mage Thalnos, so that you can actually tutor out your Death Rattles rather than drawing a random card from your deck. But I'm sure he won't be complaining at all here.
It's complicated though, isn't it? Because the more random cards from his deck he draws, I mean, if the Dead Ringers are still in there somewhere, then he will get them at some point.
He will get them at some
Chance
point.
is still very high.
It's just they will be dead later on, which is what you want to avoid. You want to make sure all your card draws are active at some point. And he's now left with only probably one Dead Ringer. Because, oh no, sorry, he's playing 2 Dead Ringers. So 2 Dead Ringers and 1 test subject left in the deck. And yeah, now the loot board has been drawn. So running a little bit low on Death Rattles, and there is that Dead Ringer which he was looking for.
Oh, 2 more Death Rattles. Going to be hitting the board this turn. Twilight's cool the turn after. Looks just fine. Spain just turboing through this deck. If they can draw enough combo pieces, the combo is doable from turn 7, but you need to have all 7 plus an extra Radiant or an extra Vivid to do that.
And that is looking mighty unlikely for the moment. Their main saving grace, to me at least, in the immediate appears to be Psychic Scream. Because they have got Maverick down to about half health. That ain't going to last for too long.
Just doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, the main thing that's going to accomplish is if it keeps up and Belgium just ignores the minions and smacks face, which obviously they are going to do, maybe this forces Belgium to go for a Hellfire instead of another Mountain Giant. Even then, I find that unlikely.
So I'm guessing here that Spain run 2 copies of Test Subject as well, which is a little bit of a different build to sort of, oh, it's one of the regular builds I guess we see. But with Binding Heal, Jacob could go Test Subject, Binding Heal, Vivid Nightmare, and then he gets extra copies of all of those cards back. Though
he probably doesn't want all these cards.
Won't necessarily have the space in the hand to have them all.
Yeah, as that is a very big talking point in this deck is sometimes, well actually in quite a few Hearthstone decks at the moment, like Druid, maybe even Warlock, you run into hand size issues. It's never that bad though, because you can dump your cards relatively easily with, in Druid, Spellstone, Naturalize, Moonfire perhaps. In this deck, a lot of the cards are core to your combo, so you just can't get rid of them until you go for the OTK combo. So for Jacob, he won't have the liberty to just go Twilight's cool, Twilight's cool, Twilight's cool, because he will overdraw, and as soon as you lose boar, you have lost that game of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Pretty much. There's like a couple of exceptions, but basically, if he burns a combo piece, the game's over.
Let's not go down that rabbit.
Fair enough. Doing a very respectable job here, though, actually, of clearing off a Mountain Giant, which is no small feat for a deck that runs a whole bunch of pathetic minions, nothing over 4 cost.
Yeah. And as you mentioned before, we do have a Psychic Scream available from turn 7. If Maverick does just continue to put Mountain Giants and other big things on the board, then that will deal with those then.
I wonder.
I'm looking at this Test Subject and these Binding Heals and thinking, like, it would be great if Jacob could play them, but like you said, hand size issues are really going to slow them down. But like, Test Subject, Binding Heal, Powered Shield, and Vivid Nightmare, that combo generates so many cards.
I wonder.
So then for Belgium, they need to think, now that my opponent has drawn a lot of cards and probably has a Psychic Scream, how do we play around Psychic Scream? That's basically what they're wondering immediately. And therefore, because they're going into turn 6 on their opponent, who has no coin any longer, Giant is not screamable. So if they want to go for charges, they want to save them in hand to play them immediately going into turn 7 to hopefully just try and get to the point where they can kill their opponent before the Scream even comes down.
Brings us back to this Binding Heal again. I keep talking about it, but now I don't think Spain's going to have much of a choice. Having drawn the second Test Subject as well now, this is going to be oh so tempting.
The Powered Shield I definitely understand the usage for, especially as if they drew one of their 2 Topsy-Turvies, or even if they'd just drawn their single Topsy-Turvy, they could throw it down here on the Test Subject, get it all back to hand.
4 combo pieces out of 7 in the hand now. Vivid Nightmare, Stone Test Ball, Test Subject, and Radiant Elemental all ready to go. Just need the other 3. Healing back up to 24 as well. Those Binding Heals will return to the hand when this Test Subject dies. Okay, suddenly things aren't looking quite so bad for Jacob.
Yep, they just need 1 Vivid Nightmare or 1 Radiant and a Topsy-Turvy and a Divine Spirit. That is quite a lot of stuff that they need to be getting in the next few turns. But they've got a lot of heal as well. 10 left over after the the binding heals come back to hand.
An extra powered shield as well.
Whether or not they do come to hand, though, is actually a pretty big question here. Because if Jacob doesn't find a topsy-turvy, what's he going to do next turn? Is he not going to play Psychic Scream? That sounds awful. And Maverick obviously isn't going to kill this off.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Wait. Okay, is there any potential downside if this doesn't get killed off? No, there isn't, because there's no way Spain can combo this.
Yeah.
Because it's got binding heals in it. And that would just... If hand size issues are a problem, then that's going to be a big problem.
And I was going to say, maybe they die to the OTK of test subject into Divine Spirit into killing it off with Topsy-Turvy.
Yeah.
It's not something that really goes all too wrong ever for Belgium. So this, I love. Throw down the Doom Guard. Even if you see a Psychic Scream on this turn, you've done 16 damage to them, brought them down to 5. The perfect health range for a Doom Guard to close out the game next turn. They just needed to not discard that Doom Guard with their current Doom Guard, and they're fine.
So what can Jacob even do about this? He's got Shadow Visions, he can try and get Topsy-Turvy, but 2 more Binding Heals just puts him back up to 15. That doesn't save him.
It does not save him. So if he goes Shadow Visions into Topsy-Turvy, and then Vivid Nightmare leaves him with 2 mana, he could then go Topsy one of those test subjects. He would get back a Topsy, a Power Word Shield, 2 Binding Heals, and a Vivid Nightmare.
He'd have to play Radiant first, wouldn't he?
He could then play double. He could then play double Binding Heal on another minion, so he can heal for 10, I think, on this turn, and get more back to hand. Like he could.
If he's willing to play Radiant, he can heal for 20. And again, he does have enough pieces in his deck. He can afford to use 1 Radiant. I think that's the only way he survives.
Maybe you do have to go for that. I mean, where he's sat, he can just play Psychic Scream and hope he survives. This is probably the least flashy play. If you have perfect information, obviously you have to attempt the play we were thinking of, whether or not it actually ends up working. However, for Belgium, the first play, the first line of attack to which I was alluding earlier on in just smack your opponent with Giants and Doom Guards, worked out pretty well there.
Jacob's name not going to be joining Race and RDU and Neyria on the list of Topsy-Turvy champions as Belgium tie up the series 1-1. It's been a quick start. We have plenty more Hearthstone to come, and the fact that Spain managed to win that unfavourable really has opened things up for me. I don't know how you feel about that, Derek.
I don't even know if I'd call that an... Oh, sorry, the first...
The zoo.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, that's a massive win for them. It was a little bit unfortunate for Chinois that they got all the cards they wanted in the early game, and could have even been played a bit differently, but still anyone's game at this point. Belgium have got some nice matchups coming up.
We'll be back with the rest of this series after this break. Shadowwalk Shaman.
Oh, yes.
Do we like Shadowwalk Shaman?
It's all right. It's a pretty cool deck in terms of to play. It can be somewhat frustrating. I'm not really sure what we're driving at here, Daniel.
How do we feel about Shadowwalk Shaman mirrors?
Ah, right. It's a PG stream, Falk, so we should probably not express my true feelings about Shadowwalk Shaman.
Next up, we're going to have Chinois again versus AKA Wonder, both on the Shadowwalk Shaman. And who knows what is going to happen here?
Yeah, this can be a pretty crazy matchup. Some of the most insane games I've ever cast in Hearthstone have been the Shadowwalk Shaman mirrors, because even if the game goes according to plan, where one player gets their Shadowwalk off, some pretty nutty stuff can occur. I believe we were both casting DreamHack Summer, I think it was, and someone got Unstable Evolution off of Hagatha, got Emeris off of that Unstable Evolution, bounced it back to hand, and then played it, which meant they got the Emeris Battlecry in the Shadowwalk pool, and ended up with a Mana Tide Totem in hand, which I had, I believe, about 20,000 health points. It was insane.
That was an interesting game. I wouldn't expect that to necessarily happen again here.
I'd say it's maybe under 50% to happen again.
Slightly under, maybe 49%.
I'd say it's probably below that as well, dare I
Oh,
say.
wow, okay. As we jump into game number 3, and I'm just already wondering what production are going to do with AKA Wonder's green screen today.
All kind of fun japes they've had for us with Akawanda's green screen. Let's hope it's nothing too surprising this time, as I think when I saw our faces pop up behind him, it damn near gave me a heart attack. But the mulligan phase in this particular matchup is a very, very weird one. because you are obviously looking for card draw cards, because this is a matchup about finding that Shudderwock combo as quick as you possibly can, whilst also trying to maximize your odds of it actually successfully activating and bouncing a Shudderwock back to your hand. And that does lead to keeping cards that you would not usually keep in starting hands as Shudderwock. For example, just keeping the combo pieces.
Right.
On HS Replay, Grumble and Shudderwock themselves are two of the highest win rate cards when kept in the mulligan in this matchup.
Really?
Yeah, because you just want to do that as soon as possible. And drawing a card is good, but having the card you want already in hand is very good.
That's understandable. Well, as it happens, so far, both players looking quite even here. One Saronite Chain Gang available for each. One Farsight for card draw. AKA Wonder does have an Acolyte, which I guess he could use with Volcano later on. But for now, it's going to be a pretty slow start for both. Yeah,
the Earthshock there, knocking about for Chinoy's to take care of the Acolyte of Pain, which is basically the main reason you have it in the deck in this matchup. Well, it's not the main reason you have it in the deck, but in this matchup, it's the main use, is to deny Acolyte of Pains and the Manatide Totems as well, just because you want to stop any card draw from your opponent.
It's going to be hitting its target this game as well. Wow, it's like they have a gentleman's agreement or something. Both have a Saronite, both have a Glacial Shard. They're just going to draw all of their battle cries at the same rate.
Yeah, these are very even hands. Somewhat disconcerting, one might say. Doesn't have to come down on this turn, though, it's worth saying, because Farsight does fill out the mana very nicely here.
True.
There's not really any ways that Akawanda can damage his own Acolyte of Pain on the following turn, given that it was a healing totem, not a searing totem, rolled for Chinoy's. Maybe he wants to go for the Saronite Chain Gang on the following turn, though.
Okay, in that case, this makes a lot of sense then. Curving into Saronite seems good, doesn't allow Spain to draw any cards. Wow, okay, Belgium going to play it nice and aggressive and just put a 2 on the board.
This makes sense. I think if you are expecting to see a Manatide Totem on the following turn, this means that you could go for a Lightning Storm to clear it up 100% of the time, is a small part of the reasoning. The other reasoning is Chinoy's wants to get down cards from his hand that he actually wants to play. Because if he goes too wide with totems and then has to play cards like Glacial Shard, that little pink-haired boy right there in the mind control tech will just quickly sweep away one of the minions.
He doesn't have much hair, but what he does have is definitely pink.
If you turn it upside down, he's kind of got a very hairy head.
What are you turning him upside down for? That's just...
He's got a beard head then.
That's gnome abuse. Okay, we've just been given a warning. Something's happening. Oh.
What?
AKA Wonder is now in Chinoy's room.
Oh, he's in Chinoy's room. I was wondering what had happened there.
In fact, I could see Chinoy's behind AKA Wonder.
Wow. I'm not going to call that cheating, but dare I say, literally sitting in front of the computer, in front of your opponent. Probably against the rules of HGG.
I think you can call that cheating.
Yeah. When it's not him actually doing it and he's simply been teleported by the HGG production crew, I think we'll let him get away with it.
And for this very reason, we need Spain to stay in the tournament. Otherwise, production will just get bored.
Because they can't play around with Akawanda's green screen.
Or we need more players with green screens.
Maybe we can make that mandatory. Everyone has to buy a green screen.
Yeah. I don't see a problem with that.
I wonder.
So a kind of interesting early few turns for both players, but to be honest, not all too much to talk about here. They're both just developing their key combo pieces in the Saronite Chain Gang at the start of the game. They kept the cards that were either card draw or combo pieces, as we saw Chinoy's keeping that Chain Gang, Akawanda only keeping the Acolyte O Pain. The main thing Chinoy's needs to be working towards here, I would say, is trying to go Acolyte into Volcano on the same turn, so that it can draw as many cards as possible and is not vulnerable to the one copy of Earthshock from Spain.
Got the spell damage totems.
Yeah,
make an aggressive Lightning Storm now. Clear AKA Wonder off of the board. That's looking good.
And this is where we should talk about, I suppose, the... Oh, wow. The only difference in deck lists from both of these players is that Spain is playing an Earthbinder and Belgium is playing 2 Mind Control techs instead of the 1 that Spain is playing. So I would put Akawanda at a little bit of an advantage there. The second Sandbinder to draw through to your Electra Storm Surges now that you found Grumble, or I guess a Glacial Shard isn't bad either.
Also, the fact that AKA Wonder has Grumble and Shadowwalk present in hand is a big advantage. All they need is Life Drinker, and then in theory, they are ready to go.
Right, the in theory is a pretty big addendum you have to add on there, because if they do just go for a 50-50 chance to bounce back Shadowwalk, I wonder if that's a risk they have to take. If they sense that their opponent is about to go for the combo themselves, for example, if they play a Grumble of their own, then I can very much see Akawanda just going for a very early Shadowwalk, because they're afraid of being Shadowwalked back themselves, and the player who Shadowwalks first in this matchup is at a pretty large advantage, I would say.
And that's the counterpoint I was going to make, is that AKA Wonder doesn't have to even consider doing that until he's seen a Grumble on his opponent's side, and there it is. So now he is going to want to act quickly. For now, the question is, does he just play Grumble? Does he get that extra Glacial Shard to the hand? Does he play Kaliseth, or does he need to remove this Manatide Totem from the board?
So if he does want to remove that Manatide Totem, the play is cheap Volcano into Kaliseth Hero Power.
Okay.
It's not bad. You've still got a Chain Gang left in the deck. Kaliseth probably doesn't do all too much from here on in, especially as you've already drawn Shadowwalk, so you don't get an immediate benefit. So, yeah, I think I prefer the more expensive Volcano here, leading up to a more flexible turn next turn. Because, yeah, Shadowwalk, the Kaliseth being played, not crucial. It's not like against an aggro deck where you have to get a 3-4 Chain Gang to really have much of a chance.
But Belgium just going to slam down the Grumble without even taking too much time to think about that.
Yeah.
It's a 7-7 after all, and they have just seen a Volcano play. This could cause some serious damage.
That's true. The actual body itself, I always do this in Shadowwalk Shaman Mirrors, where I just ignore any stats on the board at all. This is a 6-mana 7-7. That's like the best statted 6-drop in the game. But the main thing I was looking at is you just get it down now, Acolyte of Pain Volcano on the following turn, and then on turn 10, you're potentially just ready to go with a Shadowwalk, because obviously they would be overloaded on turn 9.
Belgium drawn Life Drinker as well. Now all they need is Shadowwalk, and then they're good to go with the Shadowwalk combo. Zola is in the hand, ready to try and secure it, make it a little bit more safe.
Yeah, Zola isn't bad. Zola's a weird one because you do want to play it in a way, because like you said, it gives you more chance to bounce a 9-mana Shadowwalk back to your hand. I believe it was in the global games yesterday, though, where one of the teams didn't want the Zola in their battle cry pool, because it starts bouncing back 9-mana Shadowwalks, and you have no room for the 1-mana Shadowwalks, which is very bad in this matchup, especially if you're forced to play Hagatha. But I don't envisage that either team will be forced to play Hagatha here.
I wake once more.
As now it's Belgium that have to deal with Spain's Grumble, though they can in much the same way that Spain dealt with theirs. They do have the Hex available to themselves.
They don't even have to deal with it necessarily. We could just see development onto the board, force them to attack into the Manatide Totem or something. But I guess Hex Manatide is probably about as good of a turn as you're going to be getting. I'm thinking kind of greedy here for Belgium. I want to go Manatide into Life Drink so you can just play Shadowwalk next turn if you draw it off the top. Because you're drawing 2, it's not that unlikely to happen. But yeah, this is the base play, isn't it? This is just the good play. Nothing can go wrong with this.
For AKA Wonder, he's still not played a Life Drinker yet, so he doesn't have the win condition.
And so maybe he goes for Hagatha here, because I said you don't really want to play it in this matchup, because hand size issues get very, very scary. But leaving up that Manatide Totem, it does not feel good at all.
They do have Acolyte Volcano available to
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah, of course.
They can follow that up with Prince Kaliseth.
Way better.
And whatever they draw. If they draw a Life Drinker now, great, play that.
No, good
Set up for Shadowwalk. It's not going to allow him to play Shadowwalk next turn because of these 2 points of overload. but still, it's going to get him closer to this Life Drinker, to Zola the Gorgon to secure the combo, to a second Sour Knight Chain Gang even.
Yeah, weird position now where Aka wanted to go for Sandbinder to thin his deck a little bit, draw another Elemental in probably the Glacial Shard or an Electra, or he could just go for this, get another activation on the Prince Keleseth,
okay, well,
and quite importantly, getting the Zola Battle Cry into the pool. So in 2 turns' time, again, we could just see a Shuttlewalk slam down.
There are some big advantages to this, actually. Once the third Keleseth is played, it means that when when Shuttlewalk gets played, it's going to be activating Keleseth a further 3 times. That means even if Shuttlewalk whiffs, the deck is so absurdly powerful that he probably wins through minion pressure alone.
You'd hope so. He doesn't have that many minions left. It's like one more Chain Gang, I guess a couple Life Drinkers. It's enough to push a little bit of extra damage, I suppose. I mean, and every advantage you can get if both Shuttlewalks fail is massive.
I mean, the Chain Gang is going to be 8/9s.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's a big old threat. Good point.
Volcano's not going to deal with that.
I concur.
Spain do have the Sandbinder, which will get them the second Glacial Shard as well, if played. So Keleseth Sandbinder Shard isn't looking too bad.
They do want to be afraid about filling up their board and bouncing back those cards with Shuttlewalk to their hand, however. Which is a downside of the play they went for, of going Keleseth into Zola, because it makes more minions they have to just dump out onto the board and then kill off if they don't want to have them back in their hand. But I still agree. I think this is still a good play to go for. It just gets stuff on the board.
Casual 3-mana 6/6.
This is like the Ragnaros versus Neferi Tavern Brawl, like the first one, where you played like 3-mana 6/6, deal 6 damage or whatever it was. Oof, these mind control techs ain't doing nothing for Belgium, as perfectly played around by Akawanda. They're making sure they don't fall behind on board control, now only need to guarantee that their Shuttlewalk activates on the following turn.
Yeah, whereas Chinoise is desperately trying to get to his Shuttlewalk.
Yeah.
Because that's all he needs to be winning the game. But as Lightning Storm is going to start to clear off this board, it looks like Belgium's game plan is to empty this board, meaning that Spain are going to be free to play their Shuttlewalk next turn and let the madness ensue.
And Belgium here is quite clearly, as we saw Chinoise wincing at the low roll on the Lightning Storm on the Zola the Gorgon. He wants to go through board control, right? He wants to try and smash his opponent down, force them to go to Hagatha maybe, so that their Shuttlewalk is less consistent. It's just not really going to work, I think we can all see. Healing Rain, or Electra Healing Rain, if it was necessary for Spain, just to completely nuke this health total.
Nuke this health total.
I was going to say nuke the board, because I was thinking of Volcano as the next card in my head, but yeah, nuke his health total the good way up. Because you want your health total to go up, right? So you blow it up.
Okay.
It makes perfect sense when you think about it.
I've been casting with Lorinda for the last 2 days. I can accept this logic.
By his logic, it actually makes sense, even though it doesn't.
What to do?
So we're all just thinking, is it Shuttlewalk time?
Yeah, he's got one Chain Gang, one Zola in the pool.
That's right.
So 66% of the time, I believe he's a happy chappy.
Yep. But still the 3 Keleseths, which I'm going to insist is relevant.
Yeah, it's very relevant, and he is just going for it here. There we go. That's the order he wanted it to go in. The Grumble is going to bounce it back to hand. We can see a whole bunch of 1-mana Shuttlewalks back to the hand. Chinoise gives it a face. I think he's realizing this is pretty much over for him.
Yeah, there's not even any way that this can go wrong, as it's guaranteed that this other 6/6 is being bounced back to the hand. 9 Keleseths have now been activated.
Sorry, worth saying now at this point, I don't believe there's been a Life Drinker played for Akawanda, so while he has got the ability to go for the full Shuttlewalk combo, he does still need that Life Drinker to actually close out the game.
On the other side of the board, Belgium have actually played 3 Life Drinkers, so when they get their Shuttlewalk,
they win very quick.
They're going to be dealing some serious damage, yeah.
But the main ability, or sorry, the main benefit gained here by Spain isn't damage through to face quite yet. It is simply minions on board. 2 6/6s every turn minimum is very, very strong.
Unless Grumble ever activates last, and then it's just going to be the 1/6/6.
Yeah, which is actually not that good, right? So Chinoy is actually still very much in the game here somehow.
But aka Wonder can now just stop playing Shadowbox if he wants to. He can play this, 5-4 Glacial Shard, for example, and wait until he draws a Life Drinker and then guarantee the win immediately.
That is true. Especially because it would be like a 4-mana 10-10 battle, maybe more even.
Let's see, 9 Calisthats? Yeah, it's a 12-12 actually.
That's pretty good. I reckon you'd take that.
Speaking of 12-12.
Wow. Okay, this is starting to turn into one of those games, isn't it?
I mean, I did tell you that Calisthats was going to make a big difference. I didn't know at the time it was going to proc quite this many times.
However, if Chinoy's can find his Shadowwalk next turn, though, he's not in that bad of a spot, right?
He's played 2 shards. He's played 3 Life Drinkers, Grumble,
That's
Saronite,
really good. As long as it activates in the correct order, Belgium's in a great spot. But they have to actually draw their Shadowwalk first, which is not a foregone conclusion.
They're just deeply discussed, like in a deep discussion as to whether or not they're going to play Shadowwalks or just play incredibly well-statted minions. Lightning can strike twice, but I think in this case, oh, he is actually going to go for the healing range.
He's just dumping his hand. I think this is absolutely right. There's no Hagatha in play for Akawanda, so he doesn't need to be afraid of spells cluttering up his hand, so he's just dumping minions onto the board.
Playing around the 2 copies of Mind Control tech that he knows.
Also correct.
By not playing Glacial Shard, as Chinoy's is not looking happy about this. He's not had the best 2 games of Hearthstone.
So there's now 12-24 health on the board, so an Electro Volcano will clear this up, it's worth saying. That does, however, mean on the following turn he's overloaded for 4, so absolutely no chance of playing a Shadowwalk off the top. But what choice does he have? These 12-12 oozes would probably be closing out the game.
Don't know how much damage he thinks that volcano is going to do. But it is actually going to clear the board.
Yeah,
it's 30, isn't it? So never mind. Forget what I just said. Yes.
Consider it done.
Double volcano. Pretty good. Even against 3-mana 12-12s.
Yeah, you just got to do it here for Belgium. But now Akawanda, I think, can quite happily play Shadowwalks, I guess.
Buff up the rest of his deck by another 6/6 at least.
I'm not really sure what else he does. Actually, he's afraid of adding too many 9-mana Shadowwalks to hand, isn't he?
He does need to be able to draw one of these Life Drinkers.
That's right. So he wants to be able to go Life Drinker 6 Shadowwalks on the same turn and win the game, pretty much. Or not win the game right there, but be unable to lose.
So his remaining deck consists of the 2 Life Drinker. It consists of another Saronite Chain Gang. I was going to say, he probably plays the 9-mana one.
I like this a lot more because he already has one in hand and he has still a decent chance to get another 1-mana Shadowwalk back to hand.
Now he's hoping Zola activates first, right? He wants this Shadowwalk to whiff.
Yes.
He doesn't want to... Oh, there we go, he's done it.
This is the second best order because he's still got one in hand, and now if these stick, he can go Shadowwalk, which guarantees him at least 2 1-mana Shadowwalks back to hand.
Yep.
Possibly more. Acolyte of Pain hoping to get another Volcano, I guess, off of the Hagatha Witch's Brew.
Not going to do anything about this board, though.
So 12-17 attack coming through. I suppose only 12 now if that Acolyte of Pain does its job.
Oh! 4 mana, 2, 14, 50. Excuse me, Team 5. God. Can you fix this card? Something has gone very wrong here.
Wow. Imagine how happy you are in regular Hearthstone when you see a 3-4 Saronite Chain Gang. Are you kidding me? That's busted. You get like 6-8 worth of stats for 4 mana.
Who needs Amorous anyway? We just need a bunch of Prince Calisthats in the Shadowwalk.
That was something else entirely. That was like orders of magnitude higher. But still, 4 mana for 28-30 worth of stats, which is like more stats than Topsy Turvy Priest has in its entire deck, pretty much. Pretty nutty. But then again, this is not the easiest turn necessarily for Akawanda because you don't want to play Chain Gangs and bounce them back to your hand if you have to go for Shadowwalk next turn. It would still be pretty good to play all this worth of stats, But Spain here is passing up on a 4-mana 28-30. Because they're just winning anyway at the moment, right? There's clearly no clear from their opponent. They're representing very easy lethal on the following turn.
And Prince Keleseth is not the card that Chinoise needs to save him. How much can he do here?
They can get Volcano. They can go Voltaic Burst or Lava Burst into Volcano if it comes exactly off the Shudderwock. Frost Shock ain't that, but they can stay alive.
Yeah, they can remove most of this damage from the board, freeze a Shudderwock, and deal with another.
Sorry, the Chain Gang plays into Mind Control tech as well, which Spain know is there, so that's like the main reason they're not playing all these minions.
And now he can now Chinoise can actually freeze 2 of the Shudderwocks with Earthshock and Avalanche.
You can freeze everything, right? Or, oh no, sorry, it freezes the
one,
middle.
and yeah.
I always get that wrong. There's only 2 options, and I always get it the wrong way around.
So freeze both Shudderwocks, leave the Glacial Shard alive. It's only 5 damage. It's not lethal just yet, but Chinoise knows that this game is just getting more and more painful the longer it goes on. Oh, yeah.
Go Voltaic Burst, I suppose, but he's not overloaded at the
No,
moment,
he has to play the Frost Shot. Better to remove the 6 damage than the 5.
And just wants to make sure he could play 2 Shudderwocks next turn, should he draw it. And Spain now still not representing lethal. They couldn't go all in because of the Mind Control text in Belgium's hand. Even with this Manatide that I didn't even see what that had. It was like 11 attack, I think, there.
Something like that, yeah.
I wonder.
They need to be hesitant to play it. I guess if they attack in to the MCT and then play the Manatide totem.
We're plus 12-12 at the moment, right? So it's a 12-15.
I guess so.
And now we're going to be plus 15-15.
Whole bunch of 1-mana Shudderwocks back to the hand for Akawanda. He will be developing a very nice, juicy board as well, and continuing to play around that Mind Control tech effect, should he choose to, but if he goes for the Chain Gang here, he will actually not be playing around Mind Control tech.
That does get to a point, Derek, where you do want to play your 4-mana 14-15, 14-15.
I think that point is right now as well.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have to play it there, but I suppose if Chinoise, if you don't play out all this stuff, it gives Chinoise the opponent to roll the Volcano off of a minion. Oh.
He got a Shudderwock, finally! Chinoise did it. The whole game, all he's wanted is a Shudderwock. He got there.
Can he get anything off of Unstable Evolution? Like,
no.
Doomsayer doesn't activate because he'd be dead. No 10 drops do anything. I'm not seeing it. I'm thinking he's going to get Manatide totemed to death.
It's not a good way to die, is it?
No. It's a pretty unique way to die, and it's one that I'm sure Akawanda will be happy to have gotten here at the Global Games.
Honestly, not sure what Chinoise is looking for.
Yeah, there is just nothing. I don't think that can save him anymore. A-Bomb's interesting, but does not get the job done. He's just looking for taunts, I guess.
Not quite the matchup in which Abomination saves you.
Well, I mean, when Samurai Chain Gangs are at their regular health total, it gets a little bit more reasonable.
Can you make another Abomination?
Can we get the triple? Come on, just for the memes.
Whoa!
What is this game?
Chinoise. Okay, Akawanda, concede.
They still lose.
Concede right now.
They still lose, but what are the odds of that? Are you insane? Oh my god. That is the perfect way to end this game.
Wow.
Man, this is, you know, usually we prefer the more subtle, nuanced, skill-based versions of Hearthstone. Sometimes, though, it's pretty cool to see triple Abomination being rolled versus a 12-15 Manatide totem, because why not at this point?
Shudderwock. Ladies and gentlemen. What a game. I think we can definitely guarantee there's going to be a clip or two from that game in the highlight show on the community show in the next Monday of the Hearthstone Global Games. But for now, we're going to have to just take a moment, move on to the next game of the series. It's going to be Oilek on the, I believe, is that Death Rattle Hunter?
Yes.
Versus Delsum on Odd Warrior. Okay, we're back to reality. It's a good matchup for the Hunter.
Yeah, and I think Spain will be pretty sad returning to reality. They'd much rather exist in Cloud Cuckoo Shaman land, where they can play Mana Tides for 12-15s, because the Odd Warrior up against the Death Rattle Hunter is an absolutely miserable matchup, I would say.
Yes, but...
You can stop there. There is no but.
It is somewhat reliant on the Hunter drawing Rexar at some point.
I agree, but the more I'm seeing this matchup, the more I'm actually starting to think the global games, the matches we've seen, haven't been played that well by the Hunter, because a lot of the time I'm seeing the Death Rattle Hunter playing way too quickly, in my opinion, when there is nothing that necessitates that speed. They can take it nice and slow. Obviously, you mulligan for Rexar at the start, because that is the most important card in that matchup to get that value rolling as quick as possible. But if you don't find that, you can even just go for taking it slow. Go for cubes on high mains, cubes on King Crushes. Instead of just cubes on eggs and 5/5s, you can be a lot greedier in that matchup than I think people have been being.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, Derek has just been at European playoffs last weekend, where Death Rattle Hunter has been played pretty well. Unlike here in our humble Hearthstone Global Games abode. I jest, but you are correct. Like the fact that Hunter has time to play a little bit more slowly. The Warrior doesn't tend to apply that much pressure. It can, through the use of some of the rush minions like Darius. There we go, not Varian. That's been rotated a while back. And also the 3/3 rush minions. So there is some stuff the Warrior can do, but once Rexar does get drawn, it's pretty much 100% for the Hunter.
Yeah, I wouldn't go quite that far, as there are some tricks the Warrior can do. I think the main time we see Warrior swinging it in the late game is when they go for some kind of mind control tech shenanigans after the Death Rattle Hunter has gone Cube, Play Dead, Terrascale Stalker, something like that, where they can go double mind control tech into an owl as well. Maybe swing the board back in their favor if they can get a brawl as well later on. But I agree. Usually the value is just too much for the Egg Death Rattle Hunter, especially because when the Death Rattle Hunter gets their hero card in Deathstalker Rexar, it's an awful lot more relevant than when the Warrior gets Dr. Boom. Because Dr. Boom, while it's very good to get in some matchups, it's not a strict upgrade a lot of the time over the Odd Warrior hero power, because gaining 4 is so good in those aggro and fatigue matchups anyway, that often giving yourself Kaboom or Zap Cannon or something like that, it's not actually that impactful on that game, because you need to be getting that consistent reach out of their burst damage.
I think I read somewhere a very interesting interview that Ixar had with Tice at Gamescom. Ixar, one of the developers for Hearthstone, where he was saying the way we make the hero cards is a little bit different now to how they used to be. Like, Hagatha and Dr. Boom are great, they're fun, they do some wacky things, but they don't single-handedly win the game like Rexar does, like Gul'dan does. And, you know, he was saying that the team are excited about the idea that the original hero cards are going to rotate out at some point and sort of be replaced by these newer ones that don't quite have the same game-ending impact.
And I think that's a much better direction to go. The coolest Death Knights, in my opinion, are the ones that are kind of side grades rather than upgrades directly of your hero power. Because for Rexar, it's arguably the same. Even though Deathstalker Rexar is undeniably an incredibly powerful Hearthstone card, Steady Shot is also a very powerful Hearthstone card, because doing 2 damage to your opponent's face every turn is not to be sniffed at. As well as the Scourge Lord Garrosh being an interesting one in terms of not being a strict upgrade over your previous hero power, unlike Jaina's one. But in this matchup, as we can see, there is Dr. Boom available for Spain, which, even though I said it's not necessarily the strictest upgrade over their current hero power, it's not bad to have at the start.
No, it's not bad at all. I mean, it gives the Odd Warrior sort of another way of applying some pressure. The fact that it gives all of the mech minions in the deck rush is an advantage. They can make those trades, take the initiative. I like the keep there.
Are you surprised at them not keeping Super Collider? Because I know you are an acolyte of the old Super Collider. You like that card a lot.
I'm a big fan of Super Collider, yeah, especially actually against decks that run Carnivorous Cube, because if a card like a 5/5 Devil Saw gets cubed, then Super Collider can very quickly make short work of both of them that have been spat out. So while I am a little surprised, as I just skim over the deck list to try and work out what he was looking for, yeah, I'm quite surprised. Yeah. What do you think?
I think the main things he's looking for outside of Super Collider, which we just saw picked up, are the 2 copies of Owl and the 2 copies of MCT.
Yes.
Those are both, in my opinion, very impactful cards on this matchup.
I agree,
because it's one of the main reasons why traditionally Control Warriors have struggled against any kind of Cube or Death Rattle deck, is they don't run Silence very often. It's just not a good enough card a lot of the time. Unless you're playing Odd Warrior when your card pool is so restricted that an objectively pretty understated card in Iron Beak Owl all of a sudden becomes a lot more viable.
I have to say, Spain have been doing a great job this series in getting to this position. Again, the fact that they managed to win Zoo versus Oddcrest Warrior, that was a great start, winning an unfavorable matchup there. They've won the Shadowwalk Shaman Mirror. This should have been quite an unfavored matchup for Spain, but they've really done a great job at pulling through. And now, if they can get the win here, then that will be the series and them in a position of top 16 in HGG.
Whew. Wondering how heavily they should be prioritizing the hero power here, clearly, as Stonehill is not necessarily an auto-play, even though it comes down on curve as opposed to the hero power, because against the aggressive decks, hero powering as much as you possibly can, or I suppose I should say against the burst decks, Malagos Druid, Aggro Mage, hero powering as much as possible is very important indeed. Whereas against the Hunter here, it's less about burst damage because they're not running Eagle Hornbow or Kill Command. It's more about locking down board, which the Stonehill defender does a better job of.
They want to try, if possible, and get some pressure on the board of their own. The fact that Belgium has both Spider Bombs is going to be an issue for Spain. The few things that Spain can gather together and put on the board will be ripped away from them very, very soon. Well, Savannah Highmane has always been very good against Warrior. It has to be said.
And it's not a tracking effect as well, worth remembering. It's a Stitch Tracker Discover effect. It's just a copy.
So don't take Keleseth.
Yes, do not take Keleseth, yeah. We've seen that one too many times before. You will not be getting yourself that buff until you draw the other Keleseth, at which point you just don't care. It's really between Katharina and Highmane, because these are both absurd cards up against Warrior.
Yep.
Absolutely insane. I kind of wonder if it will actually be Katharina, because if they've just exhausted a big removal or there's nothing else on board to facilitate a large brawl, Katharina is just insane. It's one of the most absurdly overstated legendaries we've ever seen in Hearthstone.
The only thing I don't like about Katharina is the fact that there is always that chance that between now and then you will draw those beasts and render the card relatively useless, whereas getting an extra Savannah Highmane, it doesn't harm the Katharina that gets played later and is a guaranteed big, heavy threat on turn 6.
That's a good point. And if you are expecting this to go to fatigue, Savannah Highmane is more value that you are adding to your deck, because Katharina, in terms of the actual value rather than immediate tempo, only adds a 6/6 worth of value, whereas Highmane adds a 6/5 and the 2 death rattles. So this is clearly from Belgium. I would say a look more to the late game, but Savannah Highmane also comes down quicker, so it's both a higher value play in the super late game and also a stronger immediate play because they can just throw it down on turn 5 or 6.
Yeah, coining out that bad boy on turn 5 is looking solid. Meanwhile, though, Delson with the Lich King. And that's about as aggressive a card that he could get from Stonehill Defender.
Yeah, you're pretty happy with that. I think Lich King or Ziliax were probably the best outcomes off of Stonehill. Direhorn Hatchling isn't bad if it does go all the way through to fatigue. But I think basically what's going to influence the fatigue endgame more heavily rather than adding one more card to your deck is whether or not they play Rexxar on curve. Which we can see is not going to happen.
So I'm gonna stand by this, Derek. I believe until Rexxar is drawn, the Warrior does have a shot at winning this.
Oh, undeniably they have a shot. They can exhaust the Hunter of a lot of their value, well, of all their value, fairly easily actually, just because of that consistent armor gain and the rush on all the mechs that they're discovering after Dr. Boom comes down. Just gives them so much removal. It's kind of crazy. Well, usually, Darius would look pretty good at taking out a 2/2 and buffing itself. However, the Death Rattle on the Spider Bomb makes it a little bit inconvenient. Yeah, so what's the alternative? You just attack in, and then it dies to the Candle Shot, and you're left with a really annoying Spider Bomb on board. I think I like Darius Crowley.
Just take the 50/50.
Yeah.
Hope that the Stonehill Defender is killed off by the Death Rattle.
Even if it misses, it's not that bad, but
okay,
that's a very, very nice outcome for Spain.
It's one of those situations, I mean, as you said, if it misses, okay, not the end of the world. If it hits, though, this is great. It's going to have to be Hunter's Mark to take out this Darius, which means Belgium are not coining out the Savannah Highmane this turn. Or they could go, I guess, Spider Bomb, coin Terrascale, maybe? Seems a bit wasteful, though, wasting the Terra Scale on such a small impact.
I still love Darius's position, the arms that he's making in that picture. It just makes me laugh, and I have no idea why.
Crush the enemy!
Well, yeah, just the arms up in the air. Like, I don't know what he's trying to do. Is that like a Gilnean dab or something, where you just throw both your hands up to your side?
Kind of looks like he's surrendering, actually.
Defend Gilneas. Oh no, wait, they have loads of cannonballs. Everyone surrender.
Moves quickly.
And eventually, he does decide to go ahead, Hunter's Mark the Darius, deal with it with a candle shot, and it leaves the rest of his turn pretty empty.
Yeah, it's a real sad turn here because he doesn't want to go for Spider Bomb Terra Scale because, again, that's the kind of play I was talking about that I have not liked in the global games, where it's too quick. It's tempo plays, whereas they need to be making slightly slower value plays. Coining out the high main, I wouldn't have... Actually, no, I would have hated coining out the high main there because it just gets traded with the Crowley, and then you can't go Terra Scale, you can't cube it if you get that off the top. You just want to be making the plays that get huge amount of value out of cube, high main, King Crush, Katharina later on.
It's actually the warrior that needs to be making the tempo plays against the hunter. It's the warrior that needs to play this nice and fast. Just developing a snail on turn 6, though? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were looking at going like Hero Power Snail on turn 4 if they hadn't drawn the second Stonehill Defender. But, you know, it's the best they've got. They've got a nice curve outside of that in going for Boom into Lich King in the next couple turns, which I think they'd be pretty happy with, assuming that it doesn't get messed up with, which we can clearly see now. Maybe they take a different route.
Is this a silence target, is the question. Obviously, there are 2 cubes in the deck.
Yeah.
They do feel like better silence targets. However, Owl and then Shield Slam does just clean up the Savannah High Main and maybe open the door for Delson to play the Lich King uncontested next turn.
This is the liberty that Odd Warrior gives you, though, I think, in that you don't have to clear up those 2/2s. If they smack you to face each turn, you completely negate the damage with your hero power. So, you know, you say, so what? Leave them knocking about next turn.
Okay.
And then you lead up to a much stronger brawl, hopefully going into your opponent's Coin Katharina turn on turn 8.
Just playing Shield Slam.
On turn 7.
Just playing Shield Slam seems really weak, though. I mean,
It is weak.
Maybe he just plays Dr. Boom, sets that up for later.
Yeah, that's a very valid consideration. I think just Dr. Boom, Shield Slam, Ziliax are all a lot more worth considering. I really don't like using the Owl here because it is so good later on.
Belgium's hand still isn't really coming together. The 2 Terra Scales have been sitting around doing nothing all game. Again, Savannah High Main, definitely not the target, not the death rattle you want to duplicate.
And Oliek ideally doesn't want to be playing those trackings because it is just... this is the situation where, you know, when newer players say, how can tracking be good? It discards 2 cards. They're actually right in this matchup because you do just end up destroying those cards from your deck, and it could very well go through to Fatigue if Oliek does find a Deathstalker Rexar and tries to extend it through to Fatigue. So not going for those trackings quite yet until he has to find a Deathstalker Rexar does make sense to me.
Okay, then.
But again, this turn looking a little bit weird for Daleson. Reckless Flurry, I guess is a good way to clear up the damage on board.
It curves out pretty nicely,
Yeah,
right?
this
He
does
can
it.
play the Dive Hatchling as well. It contests the board. And Oliek still has a load of nothing in his hand. He does have 2 trackings that he can use to dig for something. And probably will have to this turn.
It's just so passive if you don't find something good here, because if you go tracking and find Katharina, you just slam that down on the board this turn and you're very happy. Cube, brilliant. You want that cube.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to throw out the Play Dead or the Devilsaur Egg, but the
Cube is so good
but
in
yeah,
this matchup.
you're right. There's really
With
no other consideration here.
double Terra Scale, if you find Katharina or Rexar to make a giant Zombeast or King Crush, just anything that sticks on the board that's bigger than a 3/3, and you're pretty happy to start cubing it, I think.
just saying. I think he'd like all three of these cards, ideally.
Yeah. It was close to go for the egg, I think, because you can make strong immediate plays.
All right, well, there you go.
There
There's
we go.
Rexar.
That's the one he's looking for. Deathstalker Rexar can be thrown down on this turn. You clear off the guy, and then you start making those hero powers. The game hath begun.
Okay, it has, but Delson...
It hath, please. Let's keep it classy.
It hath begun. However, Delson is now able to play the Lich King uncontested on this board, and as of right now, Warlock doesn't have a way of dealing with it.
And he's got very few answers in his deck at all. I think we've seen both Spider Bombs and one copy of Hunter's Mark come down as well. So, yeah, Belgium making a bit of a face there. They're not happy with this Lich King because they want to be playing onto an uncontested board and just be allowed to run away with cubes and Terrascale Stalkers.
Okay, what do we think of Army of the Dead?
Not much. I doubt that card is being cast at any point in this game.
Counter-argument. The Hunter doesn't have many board clears, and although there are a lot of weak minions, the Warrior deck does have a lot of minions. Dynamatics, Elise, Faceless Manipulators, Ziliax.
These are,
you know,
all cards that have battle cries, may have
Mind Control techs. I'm just saying, it will summon a board, and maybe Belgium struggle to deal with it.
Yeah, it's fair. It's worth considering. What's like the worst case scenario you destroy? Probably like an Omega assembly, maybe a Brawl. Yeah, I guess you usually end up, I'd say, with about 3 minions off of that, I think is fair. Maybe even 4.
However,
they're not good minions, but there's something.
This stealthed zombies with adapt every time you hit the face is looking pretty sick.
If they can find a Hunter's Mark off of the top here, holy moly, would they be able to start punishing Dalesom.
Unity, precision,
yeah, so Dalesom is thinking, all right, let's erect a nice big wall here to stop Belgium from being able to push any damage through to face. And for the moment, I think they can be fairly certain in the assumption that this will work as another Army of the Dead comes down. Give me some analysis on 2 Army of the Deads there.
I'm telling you, Derek, you start playing them. This is the deck telling you, or the Lich King telling you. This is the... here you go, Dr. Boom.
Do not listen to the Lich King. That's a terrible plan.
Here you go, Dr. Boom. This is how you win this game. Oh, you're not going to listen? Take another one.
It's like your nan when she offers you a biscuit and you're like, no, I've just eaten an entire roast, Nan. I don't want a biscuit. She's like, come on, just have a biscuit. Just have one.
My nan's biscuits are lovely, Derek.
Yeah, my granny had like these little coffee ones that I wasn't allowed at home.
Oh.
Yeah, but I never told Mum I had them.
Ha-ha.
Yeah, doesn't she look a fool?
The Lich King stands.
As this is a pretty primo death rattle cube target for Oliak to get rolling. If he can connect to face with one of these, that is so insane.
But Dalsum can just brawl.
He can just brawl.
He could trade the cube and brawl, or he could silence the cube, go face and brawl.
I think Oliak is probably pretty happy with this brawl. The Iron Beak brawl is what makes this palatable for Spain, I think. But they're still losing their Lich King. That's like the best minion in their deck, or the biggest minion in their deck.
I'm telling you, it's fine, Derek. They have 2 copies of Army of the Dead.
Gosh.
It's like you're not listening to me.
It's almost like that, isn't it? Yeah, they don't really have any other choice, though. If one of these attacks face and gets Wind Fury, no amount of Blast Shield hero powers will be pulling them out of range. As Oliak throws up his hands in prayer, bless RNG, there's Team Belgium, and they hit! Oh,
that is not what Spain wanted to see one bit there. They don't have another board clear available to them.
They do not. Wasn't Vicious Fledgling banned from Arena for being so disgustingly powerful in that format? And here,
and so were hero cards, actually.
Oh, really? Well, so when it's a 3-mana 3/3. How about you stick a 5/5 on there and give it stealth as well? That is a deal I would take.
Spain are just wishing they could go back to the last game and play 14-15 Sound Chain. Eat that.
Simpler times.
Vicious Fledgling.
Yeah. Pretty sure the choice here is Plated Beetle. They're thinking if there are any pirates in their opponent's deck already. Mech pirates. If Spain get a Nightmare Amalgam off of Delivery Drone, that's a mech and a pirate, so Galacticrawler could gobble that up. And I think Belgium are actually talking about that, because else, why would you go for Galactic Crawler over Plated Beetle unless they've just had a small disconnect issue? That's probably a little bit more of an understandable reason to be considering the crab over the beetle.
Yeah, I guess they're not actually talking about that. I guess they're saying...
Because that would be dumb.
Why, internet? Why does this have to happen? We will hopefully hop back into the game very soon. A great other opportunity to point out. Obviously, Hearthstone got updated a little while back. We had this new feature where games pause. They don't end when a player disconnects in a friendly match. Obviously, you still get disconnected on ladder, then sucks to be you. But we are going to give the players a couple minutes to get ready to get back into the game. We will see you again very shortly.
I don't think we're going to a break.
Not?
I think you just misunderstood production.
I did.
We're going to fill for 2 minutes while they get the game back on track. However, I think that was not the worst place to leave the game there, as much as we don't like to see disconnect issues in Hearthstone, because that was starting to become a pretty pivotal point for the game, I think, where it had thoroughly begun. You know, the Rexar had been found on one side, Dr. Boom on the other. The beasts were starting to be created, and they were pretty good beasts there for Team Belgium. It's not like you sometimes get, you know, some pretty mediocre ones like Starving Buzzard and whatever other nonsense that you don't really want to look at. Those were premier zombies being created, and I do start to wonder if that was the tipping point for Team Belgium, where they got too many beasts, even though they were way further into fatigue than their opponent in terms of cards drawn due to the trackings. I think it started to look a little bit ugly there for Spain.
Yeah. If the Brawl was able to allow... Stop smiling. Look, I need to brush up on my Polish, okay? I can't...
He didn't say Polish.
He didn't speak
in Polish. He speaks in English to us.
Yeah, if one of Spain's minions survived the Brawl, then maybe it would have been a different story. That Lich King was getting some serious work done. I mean, also... Maybe if they weren't just Army of the Dead given to Spain.
To be fair, that was 3 miserable outcomes. 2 Army of the Deads, and then also vicious fledgling zombies surviving. A little bit unfortunate there for Spain. But I wonder, you've played a lot more Odd Warrior than me, and we both know that Azalina can do some absurd things. Is this a matchup where if they leave too many if they get too many zombies in hand that are very valuable, could Azalina swing this back for the Warrior if they're just able to go Azalina and then a couple of zombies next turn?
I don't think so.
I doubt it as well.
Because the problem... the thing that makes Azalina so good is, firstly, in Druid, when you can play it and then play Twig, and then get a whole other 10 mana to play all of the cards. And against Quest Rogue, when you get cheap 4/4s and all of that good stuff. Or even in against Mage, where you can take Jaina before they've had the chance to play it, and then you get to make the 3/6s. The problem is against Rexar is that you're having to spend 7 mana to play the Azalina in the first place. So you lose so much tempo in playing a 3/3. It means the opponent gets to play all of the big beasts that you've just taken, and then you're just playing yours in response. It doesn't really get you anywhere. Yeah,
most of the time when you throw down Azalina, all kind of crazy fireworks go off. In that matchup, you realise, oh, I've just played 7 mana for a 3/3 and lost all the removal cards in my hand. It has to do pretty busted stuff for it to be good. And that is just Azalina in a nutshell, isn't it? It's either insane or just completely gosh dang awful.
Yeah, as it looks like something is happening in the corner of my eye as a game has either ended or started or something. So we'll be able to get you an update very, very shortly. I believe that that little reconnect timer was ticking all the way up until now, so we should be able to jump back in.
And it's a pretty pivotal game for Belgium to be able to win. Obviously, they will be still in the series as we are finally back in here. A lot has changed. It does look like they went for the Plated Beetle in the end instead of the Galactic Crawler to silence me and my stupid cries of Nightmare Amalgam.
Meanwhile, 8/8 Wind Fury, untargetable Vicious Fledgling is just sitting there.
Oh yeah, it does have Wind Fury, yeah.
Dowsum isn't looking like he can actually do anything about it. They can Army of the Dead.
And then what, Falco?
I'm not sure, I haven't gotten that far yet.
Right, step 1, Army of the Dead. Step 2, you'll improvise.
To be fair, Mechanical Whelp actually can trade... Mechanical Whelp Hero Power does allow Spain to deal with this 8/8. It doesn't have Stealth, which means the 7/7 and the 1/1 mini-bot or micro-bot can trade into it and get that job done. So Dowsum still not quite out of the running just yet.
And that's very powerful. You clear up the board, you're still met with a Savannah Highmane or whatever that Zombeast is attached onto on the other side. I can't quite see what the second part of the Zombeast was there for the Plated Beetle. But yeah, very good spot here by you and by Spain, clearing up this entire board outside of their egg, which you're not too afraid of. If they're going for Death Rattle activators on an egg rather than on a cube or a Katharina, you're very happy.
It's actually one of the best cards you can get from these random Discover effects in Odd Warrior, is that little mech, the little 2/2 mech that has Rush, but then generates the 7/7 that also has Rush. It's a lot of board clear potential, as we just saw in this vital situation. These aren't exactly the premium beasts that we're looking at here. But he's going to go ahead and play it anyway. Nice big ol' 8-mana Corpse Widow.
Yeah, they just want to be spending their mana as efficiently as they possibly can each turn. And again, stealth is just absurd.
Yeah. Again, it's like we saw the game with Turner a few days ago, or last week, where he managed to get big stealth minion, big old stealth beast, managed to cube it, had Tundra Rhino in hand, and was able to go Tundra Rhino, play dead, and almost win the game with that. And that is just an instant win condition that these Hunter decks can find themselves with. Unfortunately for Delsom, he's really out of stuff to do here.
So what are the options? Super Collider doesn't do much on this turn. Does it even attack? If you smacked into the egg, would it even break itself on the,
Gotta
the
admit,
Corpse Widow?
Haven't tried it,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't
I'm gonna
have
guess
thought
no.
so.
Yeah. I think just zero attack minions can't attack at all.
Dynamatic, if it breaks open the egg, he can put Ziliax on the Dynamatic and deal with the 5/5. Okay.
There it is. Yeah. And that is definitely what he was looking for. It was looking a little bit messy otherwise. But I guess even if the egg doesn't break, then the egg hasn't broken and you're not facing down any pressure.
Yeah. Well, the only problem with that is that he wouldn't be able to attack anything.
Yes, yeah.
Second cube picked up, and it's discounted.
You could get this zombies down to costing, what, 2 mana? Because you'd have a double reduction after you go cube and Terrascale Stalker.
Unfortunately,
you could go cube, Terrascale Stalker, High Main, and the Beetle zombies as well, whatever it is.
That's quite disgusting. Unfortunately, Oliek can't value trade first, as thanks to the Dynamatic, there's no way that the stealth zombie survives that attack, which is awkward. But I guess he could go high main and then cube the high main, take advantage of the mana reduction, and then trade in the stealth beast.
And again, that the King Mukla here, not what king it was, King Mosh, King Crush, or King Mukla, does have
King
Echo
Togwag.
and Rush, or King Togwell, a whole lot of kings knocking about in Hearthstone at the moment, does allow him to attack through to face, and given that you get the immediate pressure of 8 damage, this does make sense to me, because now any taunts that are thrown down by Dalesom do nothing, because Cube Terrascale on that King Mukla will give him the ability to just push through any amount of taunts, so it has to be removal on this turn for Spain, which means Super Collider, I guess.
Super Collider does do the job at the cost of 7 more health. Small price to pay though, as still Oliek doesn't have any way of dealing damage to the face from his hand. Still no King Crush drawn.
Yeah, not the smallest of prices to pay though.
7 health?
7 health.
That's a pretty big price.
If I walked into a shop and said, "Excuse me, mate, how much for this sandwich?" and he said, 7 health, you have to punch a gorilla in the face to be able to eat that sandwich. And you have to punch it so hard that it also kills off a Corpse Widow, whatever that is. I would say, oh, sorry, this is Tesco's, not Morrison's, my mistake.
To be fair though, Spain didn't get a sandwich. They got rid of the gorilla and the Corpse Widow. I'd say that's a little bit better than a sandwich.
They got a knuckle sandwich, I'll tell you that for free.
And actually, they managed to get a board as well, courtesy of King Mukla.
They are starting to stabilize a little bit here. They have, as well, a non-zero amount of pressure, but it does just need to be from Belgium. You know, one small amount of lifesteal, of taunt they can throw down, just to be able to pull this back off of the Rek'Sai hero power.
They still have Army of the Dead. They're going to have to play it at some point. Well, there goes the Super Collider.
And here we finally get to see that pesky beetle, which eluded us since the
It's a 410.
slight connection issue.
It's a 410.
Yeah, I believe that's just an Oasis Snapjaw attached onto that beetle there. Just big old amount of stats, which is really not bad. They just need stats on the board to be able to close out this game. And I mean, the best case scenario is Stone Tuskball or High Main.
Come on, come on.
But this is the second best of just stats on board. And here Dalesom is in such a bad position, Falcone, that he is forced to play Army of the Dead.
Any mechs have rush. If there are any mechs that can be gotten from the deck, then maybe Dalesom can trade away this 410 beetle.
Yeah.
But what better choice does he have here?
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't have really a better choice here. He's just losing.
Because Army of the Dead is great. Never mind. Not so much. Ah, Baku,
It wasn't bad. I mean, Baku, you're not sad about losing. MCT, you are sad about losing. And Faceless, if you could copy a big beast, maybe you'd be happy with that. But this is no mechs.
Thing is, he's not lost these. They're on the board. And Oliek doesn't have any sort of wide board clear available to him at the moment.
Not right now. That is true.
In fact, he wants this board so wide, he's even going to throw in his second mind control.
Yeah. He's realizing now, Dalesom, this is his win condition. And I think this is actually a pretty good play, given that he had to go for the Army of the Dead. And, I mean, I'm taking the mick out of you a little bit here. I agree, it was never going to be that bad.
Derek? What's new?
Because they're not winning this game if it goes on too long anyway, are they? They're just losing to zombies eventually.
Still no King Crush from Belgium, though, with only 5 cards left in the deck.
So they even have...
As you were just going to check that it's actually
it's
in there.
definitely in there, yeah.
That would have just been lethal this
They didn't lose it off of tracking, I'm pretty sure, did they? It was all much more mediocre options, yeah.
Master Shaw was lost,
Yeah.
Egg, Play Dead, there was one
Yeah,
more.
that's right. So if they could find some kind of bloat bat nonsense, or maybe charging through to face, they could put themselves in a pretty good spot. Loose Specimen, if they can stick Lifesteal on it, is an immediate heal for 6.
It's not amazing.
That's not great. Yeah, you don't want that, so probably Augmented Elec on this turn, but I don't know. Loose Specimen with a Vicious Scale Hide was worth considering.
I mean, Elec as the cheapest one would go nice with the Echo Rush. He's not gone with that, though. He's gone with the...
No, he did go with the Elec. That was the cheapest one. It still cost 6.
Yeah, Elec and the what was the second one he went with? I don't recall what the 3-mana card was.
Well, it's Stealth, isn't it, I believe?
Oh, sure.
Jungle Panther.
Now, is there the damage here for Spain to win the game with Super Collider and Kaboom?
That's not Kaboom.
Oh, no, it's not Kaboom.
If they go Army of the Dead and find a couple of mechs, there's not enough damage because they only have Rush and not Charge. It's close, though. It's much closer than I thought it would be.
He can clear the board pretty nicely. Super Collider and the Microbot deals with the Saronite, the 3-3 deals with the 3-3, and then Baku can trade into the Beetle. Only Dalesom is then using up a lot of his resources. He'll know exactly what's left in his deck now, but maybe the second Army of the Dead is the answer.
This would be a good time for a mist.
I don't think he wins without it.
But does he win with it? If he goes all in on that and Belgium can weather the initial storm, the game's just over because Spain then have way less value and they're miles ahead on fatigue, which is very bad. So I think it's probably going to be Blast Shield, Hero Power, Super Collider, clear up as much of the board as you can, or all of the board.
Baku gets to go face.
Yeah.
This is really nice, actually.
Just wondering if he should go face with the MC Tech or trade off, and he is clearly thinking here, oh god, I wish I could play Pirate Warrior. Hold up, wait a second, why not? Let's just get these going through to face. And that is exactly what he does, but King Crush is picked up off of the top. There's been no Keleseth buff, so that's an 8, 11, 12 damage on this turn.
Okay, it's good. It's not quite lethal as it would have been in the previous turn.
Yeah.
It's coming down. If it survives, then it can be cubed and terror scaled, so it does now put it back onto Spain to either...
That King Crush is never surviving.
It's going straight into Baku, and then Dalesom is dealing 1 damage to it somehow.
So maybe you don't even go for the King Crush on this turn.
Oh, no,
see,
Oliek goes for the King Crush by the looks of things.
if you get unlucky off of the Builder-Beast, then I guess you're very, very sad. And I guess a Builder-Beast could do what King Crush does anyway, right? It could get Charge with Bitterside, a Hydra, and a Boar as well, just to push that extra damage through to face. And this does mean that they have to soak up all that damage.
Well, any mech
off the
discovered, any mech discovered from the Discovery drone will actually deal with King Crush just fine.
And I have to wonder if Spain is actually wondering if they should start gearing up for an Azalina sometime soon.
Maybe.
Because their hand is not that good, as they are just ripping the Army of the Dead. As the rest of their deck
Oh my
actually
goodness!
pretty good. That is a lot more like it. Oh my goodness.
This just represents lethal next turn.
This is very easily lethal. And I joked at the first Army of the Dead, and I very much joked at the second Army of the Dead. But here for Spain, this is looking like it's just game over unless Belgium can find poisonous bloatbat.
I mean, I don't want to say I told you so, Derek, but
Hit me with it. I deserve it.
I mean, the Lich King did tell me.
You did literally tell me so.
Well, that's no bloatbat there. It's not good news for Oliek.
No mechs on the board. Arthas with a Death Rattle activator could get I don't know what. You don't have mana to go for Doom Pact anymore. Even if you got Arthas plus Snow Flipper Penguin, you only have 3 mana left over after the Terrascale Stalker.
I just cannot believe what I'm seeing right now. Army of the Dead actually seems to have carried Spain. I mean, they can go for a mediocre taunt. It's just not good enough, though.
Pretty sure nothing here does it.
There's a silence in the hand.
Daleson, after a pretty insane game here, looking like they were just going to be losing to the vicious, sorry, not the vicious scale hides, the 8/8 stealths, the Raptor, forgetting the name, the attack face adapt guy.
Fledgling.
Vicious Fledgling,
Flappy
that's the
Bird.
one. Flappy Bird. It was looking like they were going to lose that after they lost a brawl to exactly that card. I thought it was over, but somehow they managed to wrestle this back, push for a pretty insane lethal here. Very cool creative plays. Big fist bump from Daleson, and that's done it.
Yeah, Spain have, in theory, managed to qualify for the top 16. We're going to need to look at those tiebreakers, make sure they've made it in. But either way, they have eliminated Belgium at the very least by winning Odd Warrior versus Death Rattle Hunter with quite an early Rexar. That's a big achievement.
Yeah, that was no easy game for them, but I think it was a really nice spot at the end. Their win condition was tempo. It was overwhelming the Hunter to the point where they did not have answers on the board unless it was exactly bloatbat with poisonous, which is fairly unlikely to occur.
Let's see again how that series happened one more time. The matchups that we saw. Riku winning with Zoo versus Odd Quest Warrior. That was the start for them. Then yes, Jacob lost with Topsy Turvy Priest, wasn't able to get past the Q block, but they won the mirror with Shadowwalk Shaman, and then Delsum with his Odd Warrior managed to take down Death Rattle Hunter thanks to 2 copies of Army of the Dead from the Lich King. That was just fantastic. What a series.
I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get to see the final game because Maverick had a very spicy-looking Paladin deck in the Egg Mech Paladin that I believe Muzzy was one of the first players to
Muzzy Meat
popularize.
Wagon type thing.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. I think it was one of the slightly more newer versions of the deck, but I wish we could have seen that still. Big congratulations to Spain in a well-deserved victory.
We're going to see how Spain are feeling about that with a little chat with AKA Wonder. Congratulations, AKA Wonder. You've done it. You've gotten the 4 wins. After our talk on Monday, I know that you guys were very keen to get this victory, and the matchups didn't exactly go in your favor. What have you been thinking throughout the series?
There like last 3 rounds, we had a decent pick and ban phase, but then when we had to match our decks, it didn't go in our way. So we always got bad matchups. But still, we know the Warrior is really strong. Our Warrior especially was really good because it was too greedy, not even playing a single shield block or something.
Wow.
So we were like thinking, we can do that. And obviously, we had good matchups and we lost some weeks ago. So there is always a chance. We were believing since the start, and we kept playing as well as we know. And that's what we have been doing since the start of the tournament. So I think we deserve. I think Belgium played really well. I'm actually sad for them because obviously they're probably gonna be out of the tournament, but super happy for us, and obviously the team is super proud of our everything, of our work every week, of our plays. I know all the fans are really happy right now, and as we are, of course. And I don't know, man, a lot of things to say.
So I know that in that last game, I didn't feel too good for you when I saw the army of the Deads come off the Lich King. When you first saw them come down, were you happy or were you sad to see them?
Same for us. We were like, why two? We were like, why two? We need removals. We need maybe 5 damage or heal, or the 5 HP card, the 2-mana card. So we actually thought that it was bad, but then we realized we had a lot of minions on our deck, and it was really good to close the game, right?
Yeah, worked out very well. I think it was played really nicely at the end.
Thanks.
All right, AKA Wonder. The question going forward then, assuming you guys have the tiebreakers to get into top 16, which team do you want to be taking down next week?
Brazil or China, for me, are the ones to play, because we lost in the phase, so in that phase, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not angry, but I want to win them at least once. But I don't have any personal preference to play against. Maybe Czech Republic, because they are the current champion.
Seems good. I'm sure you guys have what it takes. Last thing, you promised me on Monday that if you won today, you'd be shouting a certain something. You gonna hit me with it?
Yes, of course. Vamos!
Vamos, indeed. Congratulations, AKA Wonder. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all our Spanish fans. They are always watching and supporting us, and we really appreciate it. I will see you guys on the top 16. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Goodbye. Always such an energetic guy. Great Hearthstone player, AKA Wonder.
We just love Aka Wonder. He's always such a nice personality. He was one of the first players when I started going to events to always come up and say hi. He's a lovely man.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling Gaskian during the community show Monday, he's the first pro player friend I made. The first guy that shared a taxi with me from an airport. It was great. But yes, this was the series one more time. Riku on the Zoo. Able to take down Chinoy's. It was very aggressively played, but Chinoy's had no board clears apart from a single brawl. Just wasn't able to do anything about this onslaught.
Yep, too much consistent pressure from Spain, even though they weren't tapping as much as they could have done in that match. And were going through their cards very quickly. Still worked out nicely for them. Found the Fungal Mancers very quickly to ramp up that damage. And speaking of ramping up damage in this game, we saw Belgium just absolutely destroy Spain. Poor Jacob here, not even getting a foot in the door in this matchup.
Yeah, no amount of binding heals was going to prevent that lethal. As then the Shadowwalk shenanigans began, and yes, you are seeing that correctly. It is a 3-mana 12/12 sitting on the board, as 3 Kaliseths were played, one from a Zola, one from a Grumble, and then lots of Shadowwalks were played, meaning that I think eventually that Kaliseth procced 12 times.
Yeah. Which is fairly silly. What we always like to see in these Shadowwalk games, because they can be a little bit dry. It's worth saying one person draws the combo, one person doesn't. But when stuff like this happens, I think we can all agree it's a spectacle at least.
Yeah, I mean, Chinoy's, bless him, he found that hilarious, as you could see when the Saturday Night Chain Gang was played.
Speaking of hilarious as well, this was quite a way to close out the game. What even are the odds here? I'm sure Lorinda in the back has figured it out already, but 3 abominations in a row. I just don't even know what to say.
We're going to get back there, and there's going to be papers all over the floor and all over the walls and everything, as he's been trying to work out the statistics of that happening. Chinoy's was very happy with it, though, clearly. Not enough to save him, however, as AKA Wonder was able to take this win.
He won the moral victory, I think we can say, in getting both the abominations, kind of setting up a pseudo Dr. Boom lethal puzzle as well.
Yeah. As then was the game that we didn't expect to go the way that it did. Delson was first able to get that Lich King to stick for a few turns before he had to brawl it away. That managed to get Oilek down to 15, and it generated 2 copies of Army of the Dead, which yourself and Team Spain weren't too happy about, until this happened.
Yeah.
This is the result of Army of the Dead. That is a lethal, and Spain did it.
They got pretty fortunate there with all those beasts, all those minions left in the deck, sorry, especially. Well, Actually, they were the beasts. The matriarch as well as the direhorn hatchling doing a pretty absurd job there. If it had just been slightly different roles off of the beasts, maybe Belgium could have pulled that back. As I said, maybe a bloat bat, a vicious scale hide, dare I say, to pull their health back up, could have pulled it back in their favour. But what a way to close out the series there and bring Spain through to the top 16.
Coming up next is going to be the Czech Republic versus Bulgaria. And although Bulgaria are 4-1 at the moment, Czech Republic are 3-2, and Bulgaria don't have the best tiebreakers. So actually, both of these teams are going to be looking at winning this one if they want to get into the top 16. It's an important match coming up.